My girlfriend said my ex texted I might give him another chance. So I called her best friend who's been crushing on me for years and took her to my girlfriend's favorite restaurant. Subscribe to the channel and like the video to see more stories like this. 28 years old. That number represents everything I thought I had figured out in life. My name is Marcus, and for the past 3 years, I've been working as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup in Austin, Texas. My apartment downtown wasn't much, but it was mine, and I'd worked hard to afford the city life I'd always dreamed of. I thought I had everything under control, especially when it came to my relationship with Sarah. Sarah Chen and I had been together for 2 years. She was 26, worked as a graphic designer for a local agency, and had this infectious laugh that could light up any room. When we first met at a coffee shop near campus, I was immediately drawn to her creativity and ambition. She had these expressive brown eyes that seemed to hold entire conversations, and her passion for art made every day feel like an adventure. Our relationship felt effortless from the beginning. Sarah would surprise me with homemade lunches at work, and I'd leave little notes in her design portfolio. We had our Friday night ritual of trying new restaurants around Austin, and weekends were spent exploring the city's music scene or hiking the trails around Town Lake. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. Her friends, my friends, even our coworkers would comment on how well we complemented each other. But there was always this shadow lingering in the background, and his name was Derek. Derek Martinez had been Sarah's college boyfriend. They'd dated for 3 years during university, and from what Sarah had told me, it ended messy. He'd been controlling, jealous, and had this way of making her feel small whenever she achieved something. Sarah would get this distant look in her eyes whenever his name came up in conversation, which thankfully wasn't often. She'd told me once, "Marcus, you make me feel like the person I actually am, not the person someone wants me to be." That should have been enough reassurance. But Derek had a way of creeping back into our lives at the most unexpected moments. A random text here and there, usually around holidays or significant dates. Sarah would show me these messages, rolling her eyes and deleting them immediately. "He does this every few months," she'd say. "I think he just gets lonely." I trusted Sarah completely. That was never the issue. The issue was that I could see how these messages affected her, even when she pretended they didn't. There would be this flicker of something, maybe nostalgia, maybe unresolved feelings, that would cross her face before she quickly pushed it away. Then there was Emma. Emma Rodriguez had been Sarah's best friend since high school. They were inseparable. Emma was the maid of honor at every wedding Sarah attended, the first person Sarah called with good news, and the one who held her hair back during college parties. Emma was 25, worked as a nurse at Austin General, and had been part of our friend group since Sarah and I started dating. What Sarah didn't know, what I'd kept to myself for the past year, was that Emma had feelings for me. It started with small things. Emma would find excuses to text me directly instead of going through Sarah. She'd touch my arm a little too long when she laughed at my jokes. During group hangouts, she'd somehow always end up sitting next to me, and I'd catch her looking at me when she thought no one was watching. The attention was flattering, I'll admit, but I never encouraged it. Sarah was my girlfriend, and Emma was her best friend. Those boundaries seemed sacred, but Emma had a way of making her feelings known without ever saying anything directly. She'd compliment my shirts, remember details about my work projects that even Sarah sometimes forgot, and she'd get this particular smile whenever we were alone for even a few seconds. It was the kind of smile that said, if things were different. I'd convinced myself that keeping this knowledge to myself was protecting everyone involved. Sarah adored Emma, and Emma was genuinely a good friend to her. Why create drama where there didn't need to be any? Besides, I was committed to Sarah, and nothing was going to change that. Or so I thought. The first crack in our perfect relationship appeared on a Tuesday evening in late September. Sarah and I were cooking dinner together in my kitchen. She was making her famous garlic shrimp while I worked on the salad. We were discussing our weekend plans when her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and I saw her expression change immediately. The easy smile faded, and she got that same distant look I'd seen before. "Everything okay?" I asked, continuing to chop tomatoes. "Yeah, it's just..." She paused, staring at her phone. "Derek texted." I set down my knife and turned to face her. "What did he say?" She showed me the screen. The message was longer than his usual random check-ins. "Hey Sarah, I know this is random, but I've been thinking about us a lot lately. I made some mistakes, and I think I'm finally in a place where I can be the person you deserved. Would you be open to talking sometime? Maybe over coffee? I miss what we had." I felt something cold settle in my stomach, but I kept my voice steady. "That's quite a message." "He's never written anything like this before," Sarah said quietly, still staring at the phone. "It's usually just, 'Hope you're doing well,' or 'Saw this song and thought of you' kind of things." The way she said it made me look at her more carefully. There was something in her voice, a softness that hadn't been there moments before. "What are you thinking?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know the answer. Sarah set the phone down and went back to stirring the shrimp, but I could tell her mind was elsewhere. "I don't no. It's just, we did have a lot of good times before everything went wrong. And people change, right? Maybe he really has figured himself out. That cold feeling in my stomach spread to my chest. Are you considering meeting him? She was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence, I felt something fundamental shift between us. When she finally looked at me, there was an uncertainty in her eyes that I'd never seen before. I think I might be. The next few days were torture. Sarah didn't mention Derek again, but I could feel his presence hanging over us like a storm cloud. She'd get distracted during conversations, picking up her phone more often than usual, and I caught her staring off into space with that same thoughtful expression. I tried to act normal, but normal felt impossible when your girlfriend was actively considering reconnecting with her ex. During our usual Friday night dinner at Suerte, our favorite Mexican place, Sarah barely touched her food. "You're being quiet tonight," I said, reaching across the table to touch her hand. She snapped back to attention, giving me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sorry, I'm just tired from work. Big project deadline coming up," but I knew it wasn't work. Sarah loved her job and usually couldn't stop talking about her latest design challenges. Tonight, she was going through the motions of our relationship while her mind was clearly somewhere else. The breaking point came the following Wednesday. I'd surprised Sarah with lunch at her office, something I used to do regularly. When I walked into her studio with Thai takeout, I found her on the phone, speaking in a voice I barely recognized. Soft, almost vulnerable. I know. It's complicated," she was saying. "But maybe some things are worth a second chance, you know?" She noticed me standing in the doorway and quickly ended the call. "Hey, what are you doing here?" "Brought lunch," I said, holding up the bag, but my voice sounded distant even to my own ears. "Who was that?" "Just Emma," Sarah said quickly. "She's having relationship drama with that guy from her gym," but something felt off about her answer. Emma had been dating casually, sure, but she'd never seemed particularly invested in anyone, and the way Sarah had been talking, with that wistful tone, didn't sound like someone giving advice about casual dating. Over the next week, Sarah's behavior became increasingly strange. She'd disappear into the bathroom with her phone for long periods. She started working late more often, which was unusual for her, and worst of all, she seemed to be pulling away from me physically and emotionally. The Sarah I knew was affectionate, always reaching for my hand, stealing kisses during movies, curling up against me while we watched TV. But now she'd sit on the other end of the couch, claiming she was too warm or too tired for cuddling. Our conversations became surface level, focusing on safe topics like work and the weather. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Friday evening, and we were supposed to have dinner with Emma and a few other friends at Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill. Sarah had been getting ready for over an hour, changing outfits 3 times and spending an unusual amount of time on her makeup. "You look beautiful," I told her as we walked to my car. "Special occasion?" She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Can't a girl just want to look nice?" At dinner, I watched Sarah carefully. She was animated with everyone except me, laughing loudly at jokes that weren't particularly funny and ordering more drinks than usual. But what really caught my attention was how she kept checking her phone throughout the meal. Emma noticed too. During a lull in conversation, while Sarah was in the bathroom, Emma leaned over to me. "Is everything okay with you two?" she asked, her voice gentle with genuine concern. "Sarah seems different lately." I looked at Emma, really looked at her. She was wearing a soft blue dress that brought out her eyes, and her dark hair was loose around her shoulders. There was something comforting about her presence, a stability that felt absent from my relationship with Sarah lately. "I think she's going through something," I said carefully. "Work stress, maybe." Emma's hand found mine on the table, just for a moment. "If you ever need someone to talk to, you know I'm here, right? I care about both of you." The warmth of her touch lingered even after she pulled away, and I found myself wondering what it would be like to have someone who was completely present, completely focused on me the way Emma seemed to be. When Sarah returned from the bathroom, I noticed she looked flushed, almost excited. She sat down and immediately checked her phone again. "Who keeps texting you?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Just work stuff," she said, but she quickly turned her phone face down on the table. As the evening wore on, I found myself paying more attention to Emma than to Sarah. Emma asked about my latest project at work, remembered that I'd been stressed about a presentation, and genuinely listened to my answers. Meanwhile, Sarah seemed distracted, her responses automatic and distant. When Emma excused herself to the restroom, Sarah's phone buzzed. Without thinking, I glanced at the screen and saw a preview of a message. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I've missed." The rest was cut off, but I'd seen enough. My heart started pounding as I realized that Sarah had been lying to me. She wasn't just considering meeting Derek, she already had plans to see him. "Sarah," I said when she looked up from her phone, "we need to talk." She must have seen something in my expression because her face went pale. "What about?" "About whoever you're planning to see tomorrow." For a moment, she looked like she might deny it. Then her shoulders sagged slightly, and I saw guilt flash across her features. "Marcus, I can explain. Are you meeting Derek?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Around us, the restaurant continued its Friday night buzz. Laughter, clinking glasses, conversations. But our corner of the table felt like it existed in a vacuum. "It's just coffee," she said finally. "I need closure. I need to understand why things ended the way they did. And maybe see if there's still something there." The words hit me like a physical blow. "So you're willing to throw away 2 years with me to chase after someone who treated you terribly?" terribly. It's not about throwing anything away, Sarah said, her voice rising slightly. It's about being honest with myself about my feelings. Don't you want me to be sure about us? Emma returned to the table at that moment, immediately sensing the tension. Everything okay? I looked between Sarah and Emma. Sarah, who was preparing to chase after her past, and Emma, who was looking at me with such genuine concern and care. The contrast was stark and painful. Actually, I said, standing up and pulling out my wallet, I think I'm going to head home. I'm not feeling great. Marcus, wait. Sarah started to protest. No, it's fine, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Follow your heart, Sarah. Do whatever you think will make you happy. As I walked toward the exit, I heard Emma say she'd check on me later, and I heard Sarah trying to explain the situation to the rest of our friends. But all I could think about was how easy it had been for Sarah to consider throwing away everything we'd built together. That night, alone in my apartment, I found myself thinking about Emma's words. If you ever need someone to talk to, you know I'm here, right? For the first time in 2 years, I was starting to wonder if Sarah wasn't the only option I had. Saturday morning came with an emptiness I hadn't felt in years. Sarah had texted me around midnight. Can we talk later? I know you're upset, but this is something I need to do for myself. I hadn't responded. I spent the morning at Town Lake, running the trails Sarah and I used to walk together on weekends. Every familiar spot reminded me of conversations we'd had, plans we'd made, moments when I thought we were building something permanent. Now all of those memories felt like they belonged to someone else's life. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Emma. Hey, her voice was soft, concerned. How are you holding up? I stopped running and sat on a bench overlooking the water. Honestly, I feel like an idiot. 2 years, Emma. 2 years of thinking we were solid, and she's ready to throw it all away because her ex sent a text. You're not an idiot, Marcus. You loved her completely, and that's never something to regret. There was something in the way Emma said it, not just sympathy, but understanding, like she knew what it meant to love someone completely and not have it returned the same way. Where is she now? I asked. Emma was quiet for a moment. Marcus, I probably shouldn't tell you this. Tell me what? She's at Cafe No Say on South First. She's been there since 11. My heart sank. Cafe No Say was where Sarah and I had our first official date. She'd chosen to meet Derek at our place. How do you know that? She texted me a photo an hour ago. She was nervous and wanted someone to know where she was, I guess. She looked happy, Marcus. Really happy. Happier than I've seen her in months. The words hit harder than I expected. Sarah had been unhappy with me for months, and I hadn't even noticed. Or maybe I had noticed but convinced myself it was temporary stress, something we could work through. I'm sorry, Emma continued. I debated whether to tell you, but I thought you deserved to know. I stared out at the lake, watching kayakers glide across the water, their movements purposeful and smooth. She made her choice, didn't she? It looks that way. Emma, can I ask you something? Of course. That night last week, when you said I could talk to you if I needed someone, did you mean that? Marcus. Her voice became gentler. I've meant every word I've ever said to you. There it was. The admission I'd been pretending not to hear for months. Emma had feelings for me. Real feelings. And unlike Sarah, she wasn't afraid to be present, to be available, to be honest. I need to ask you something else, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. How long have you had feelings for me? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Since the night Sarah introduced us, you were telling the story about a presentation that went wrong at work, and you were laughing at yourself, completely comfortable with being imperfect. Sarah was on her phone half the time, but I was hanging on every word. I knew right then that Sarah had no idea how lucky she was. 2 years, I said, more to myself than to her. 2 years of watching you give everything to someone who took it for granted. 2 years of being the friend you confided in when she was distant or distracted. 2 years of wanting to tell you that you deserved someone who saw your worth every single day. I closed my eyes, feeling something shift inside me. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because she's my best friend, and you were happy. Or I thought you were happy. But Marcus, these past few months, watching her pull away from you while you tried harder and harder to hold on, it's been killing me. At that moment, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Coffee went really well. We're going to walk around downtown for a bit. Don't wait up. I might be out late. We have a lot to catch up on. I read the message aloud to Emma. She's not even pretending to come home, Emma said, and I could hear the anger in her voice. God, Marcus, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve this. No, I said, standing up from the bench. I don't. And you know what? I'm done pretending that I do. What do you mean? I mean Sarah wants to follow her heart? Fine. She can follow it right back to Derek. But I'm not going to sit around waiting for her to decide if I'm worth her time. Marcus, Emma, are you free tonight? Another pause. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that I've spent 2 years being with someone who doesn't appreciate me, while ignoring someone who does. I'm thinking that maybe it's time I followed my own heart for once. Are you sure about this? I don't want to be your rebound, Marcus. I don't want to be the consolation prize because Sarah chose Derek. Her honesty was exactly what I needed to hear. This was the difference between Emma and Sarah. Emma cared enough to consider my feelings and her own, to want something real rather than just available. You wouldn't be a rebound, Emma. You'd be the choice I should have made 2 years ago if I'd been brave enough to see what was right in front of me. Where would you want to go? I thought about it for a moment, and then I knew exactly where. Uchi, Sarah's favorite restaurant, the one she's been talking talking about going to for our anniversary next month. Marcus, are you sure? She's spending her day at our first date spot with her ex. I think it's only fair that I take someone who actually wants to be with me to her favorite place. What if she sees us? Then she sees us. Emma, she made her choice today when she decided that exploring things with Derek was more important than respecting what we had. Now, I'm making mine. I could hear Emma's smile through the phone. What time should I be ready? 7 o'clock. And Emma, wear something that makes you feel beautiful. Tonight isn't about Sarah or Derek or anyone else. Tonight is about us finally being honest about what we want. After I hung up, I sat by the lake for another hour, watching the afternoon light dance on the water. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe properly. The weight of trying to hold on to someone who was already gone had lifted, replaced by something I hadn't felt in a long time: anticipation. My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah. Derek and I are going to see a movie. Thanks for being understanding about this. I know it's hard, but I really think this is what I need right now. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Sarah had made her choice, and now she could live with the consequences. At 6:30, I was standing outside Emma's apartment building, wearing my best shirt and feeling more nervous than I had in years. When she came downstairs, my breath caught in my throat. Emma had chosen a black dress that was elegant without being flashy, and she'd left her hair down in soft waves. But it wasn't just how she looked. It was the way she smiled when she saw me, like seeing me was the best part of her day. "You look incredible," I said, meaning every word. "So do you," she replied, then added more quietly, "I can't believe we're actually doing this." Having second thoughts, she stepped closer to me, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something warm and subtle that was completely different from Sarah's usual floral scents. "No second thoughts," she said. "I've been waiting 2 years for this moment. I just want to make sure you're ready for whatever happens next." I looked down at her, seeing the hope and vulnerability in her eyes, and realized that I was more ready than I'd ever been for anything in my life. "Let's go show Sarah what she gave up," I said, offering Emma my arm. As we walked toward my car, I felt my phone buzz with what I assumed was another update from Sarah about her perfect day with Derek. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't even check to see what it said. Uchi was everything Sarah had described and more. The intimate lighting, the sophisticated atmosphere, the way the staff treated every guest like they were the most important person in the room. I'd made the reservation using Sarah's name, a small detail that felt like poetic justice. Emma and I were seated at a corner table with a perfect view of the entrance. She looked radiant in the candlelight, more relaxed and genuinely happy than I'd seen her in months of group hangouts where she'd had to hide her feelings. "I have to admit," Emma said, studying the menu, "I always wondered what this place was like. Sarah talked about it constantly. She's been wanting to come here for our anniversary next month," I said, then caught myself. Was wanting to come here. Emma reached across the table and touched my hand. "Are you okay? Really okay? Because if this is too weird or too much, we can go somewhere else." "Emma, look at me." She met my eyes, and I saw so much warmth there, so much genuine care. "This isn't weird. This feels right. More right than anything has felt in months." We ordered wine and shared stories I'd never heard before. Emma's nursing school adventures, her family's immigration story, her dreams of traveling to South America. With Sarah, conversations always seemed to circle back to her work, or her friends, or her problems. With Emma, there was space for both of us to exist fully. "Can I tell you something?" Emma said as we shared the chef's special sashimi selection. "Anything. I used to hate group hangouts sometimes because it was torture watching you two together. Not because I was jealous of Sarah. Well, okay, I was jealous of Sarah, but because I could see how hard you were trying to make her happy, and she never seemed to notice." "What do you mean?" "Like that time you drove 3 hours to surprise her at her friend's wedding in San Antonio, and when you got there, she barely acknowledged you because she was too busy taking photos for Instagram. Or when you learned to make that complicated curry she loved, and she ate it while scrolling through her phone and just said, 'Thanks, it's good.'" I stared at Emma, realizing she'd been paying attention to details that I'd convinced myself didn't matter. "You noticed all that?" "Marcus, I noticed everything. The way your face would fall when she dismissed something you were excited about. The way you'd compensate by trying even harder. The way you'd make excuses for her when she was late, or canceled plans, or just wasn't present. It was like Emma had been holding up a mirror to my relationship, showing me patterns I'd been too close to see. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because she's my best friend, and you seem to love her. But also because," she paused, twirling her wine glass, "because I was terrified that if I pointed out how she treated you, you might realize how I felt about you, and that would make things complicated." "Things are already complicated," I said with a laugh. "True, but this is a good kind of complicated." We were halfway through our main course when my phone started buzzing insistently. I glanced at it and saw Sarah's name flashing on the screen. "She's calling," I told Emma. "Are you going to answer?" I looked at Emma's face in the candlelight, at this woman who'd spent 2 years caring about me from a distance, who'd driven across town on a Saturday night to have dinner with me, who listened when I talked and noticed when I was trying too hard. "No," I said, declining the call. "Whatever she has to say can wait." The phone immediately started ringing again. "Maybe it's an emergency," Emma suggested. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello, Sarah. Marcus, where are you?" Her voice was tight, strong. stressed. I'm having dinner. Why? Derek and I went to see that new gallery opening downtown, and I thought I saw your car in the Uchi parking lot. But that can't be right because you said you weren't feeling well last night. And besides, we're supposed to go there together for our anniversary. My heart started pounding, but I kept my voice steady. Maybe it's a similar car. Can you just tell me where you are? I'm worried about you after how things ended last night. I looked at Emma, who was watching me with calm, supportive eyes. She mouthed, "Tell her," and nodded encouragingly. "I'm at Uchi, Sarah." Silence. Then, "What? Why would you go there without me?" "Because I'm not alone." Another silence, longer this time. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was smaller, uncertain. "Who are you with?" "I'm with someone who actually wants to spend time with me." "Marcus, what does that mean?" "Who?" I heard her gasp. "Oh my God, is that Marcus? Is that my car in the parking lot? The red Honda?" Emma and I both turned toward the entrance, and there, standing in the doorway looking like she'd seen a ghost, was Sarah. She was still in her casual clothes from her day with Derek, her hair slightly messy from walking around downtown. Derek was right behind her, looking confused and uncomfortable. For a moment, the entire restaurant seemed to freeze. Sarah's eyes found mine across the room, then shifted to Emma, and I watched as understanding and disbelief and hurt crashed across her face in waves. "Emma?" Sarah's voice carried across the restaurant, high and shocked. "What the hell is going on?" Every head in the restaurant turned toward us. Emma straightened in her chair, her composure impressive under the circumstances. "Sarah," I said, standing up and walking toward her, "I think we need to talk." "You're damn right we need to talk," Sarah said, her voice rising. "What is my best friend doing at my favorite restaurant with my boyfriend?" "Ex-boyfriend," I corrected quietly. "You made that pretty clear today when you chose to spend the entire day with Derek instead of talking to me about what was happening between us." Sarah looked back and forth between Emma and me, her face cycling through emotions too quickly to track. "This is insane. You're being crazy and dramatic because I had coffee with Derek?" "Coffee?" I couldn't help but laugh, though there was no humor in it. "Sarah, it's 9 o'clock at night. You've been with him for 10 hours. You texted me that you were going to a movie, then to a gallery opening. That's not coffee. That's a full-day date. We were just talking. We were working through our past." And while you were working through your past, I was realizing that maybe I should focus on my future. Derek, who had been standing awkwardly behind Sarah, finally spoke up. "Look, man, if there's some kind of misunderstanding here." "There's no misunderstanding," I said, not taking my eyes off Sarah. Sarah wanted to explore her options, so I decided to explore mine. Sarah's gaze shifted to Emma, who had remained seated but was watching the scene with calm dignity. "Emma, how could you do this to me? You're supposed to be my best friend." Emma stood up slowly, her voice steady when she spoke. "Sarah, I am your best friend, which is why I've spent the last 6 months watching you take Marcus for granted and not saying anything. Which is why I've listened to you complain about feeling trapped in your relationship while never considering that maybe the problem wasn't Marcus, maybe it was your own lack of commitment. That's not, you've been pulling away from him for months," Emma continued. "Canceling plans, being distracted during dates, treating him like he was an obligation instead of a choice. And the second Derek texted, you were ready to throw away 2 years without even talking to Marcus about what you were feeling. I was trying to figure out my feelings by going on a date with your ex," I said. "Sarah, you didn't choose me today. You chose Derek. So I chose someone who's been choosing me for 2 years, even when she couldn't say it out loud." Sarah looked between us, and I saw the exact moment when she realized that this wasn't some impulsive reaction to her day with Derek. This was real. Emma and I were real. "You planned this," she whispered. "You planned this to hurt me." "No," Emma said firmly. "Marcus called me because he needed someone who cared about him, someone who wouldn't make him feel like he was competing for attention in his own relationship." "I can't believe this is happening," Sarah said, looking around at the other diners who were pretending not to watch our drama unfold. "I can't believe you would both betray me like this." "Sarah," I said, my voice gentler now because despite everything, I didn't want to hurt her more than necessary. "You chose Derek the moment you decided his feelings mattered more than mine. Emma and I are just choosing each other." She stood there for another moment, Derek's hand on her shoulder, looking lost and confused and hurt. Then she turned and walked out of the restaurant without another word, Derek following behind her like a loyal puppy. I sat back down across from Emma, my hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline. "Well," Emma said, reaching for her wine glass, "that could have gone worse." "Could it have?" "She could have thrown something at us." Despite everything, I started laughing. "Is it terrible that I feel relieved?" "No," Emma said, smiling. "It's honest." "And Marcus? For what it's worth, I think you handled that perfectly. You didn't try to hurt her unnecessarily, but you also didn't apologize for choosing yourself for once." I looked at this incredible woman across from me, who had just stood up to her best friend to defend me, who had remained calm and dignified in the face of public drama, who had been patient and kind and real when I needed it most. "Emma, yeah, thank you for waiting for me to figure this out. Thank you for finally figuring it out." We finished our dinner in peace, the drama having cleared the air in a way I hadn't expected. As we walked back to my car, Emma slipped her hand into mine, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Most were from Sarah, but there were also messages from our mutual friends, who had apparently been filled in on the previous night's events. Sarah's messages started angry. "I can't believe you would humiliate me like that that in public, and how long has this been going on behind my back? But as the night progressed, they became increasingly desperate. Please call me. We need to talk about this. And, Marcus, I made a mistake with Derek. Can we please work this out? The messages from our friends were a mixed bag. Some were supportive. Dude, good for you. Sarah's been treating you like crap for months. Others were confused. What happened? Sarah is saying you cheated on her with Emma? And a few were accusatory. Really thought you were better than this, man. I was reading through them over coffee when Emma called. How are you holding up? She asked, her voice warm and concerned. Honestly, better than I expected. You? Same. Though I think I need to prepare for some fallout. Sarah's been texting me all night and none of it's been pleasant. What kind of things is she saying? Emma was quiet for a moment. She's hurt, Marcus. Really hurt. She's saying I betrayed her, that I planned this whole thing to steal you from her, that our friendship meant nothing to me. I felt a pang of guilt. Emma, maybe we should have handled this differently. Maybe I should have broken up with Sarah first. Before what? Before we had dinner? Marcus, we didn't do anything wrong. We had a meal together. We talked. We held hands. Meanwhile, Sarah spent an entire day with her ex-boyfriend after lying to you about her feelings for him. She was right, but I could still hear the pain in Emma's voice. Are you okay with losing your friendship with Sarah over this? I lost my friendship with Sarah months ago, Emma said quietly. I just didn't want to admit it. The Sarah I was friends with wouldn't have treated someone I cared about the way she's been treating you. The Sarah I was friends with would have been honest about her feelings, instead of stringing you along while she figured out what she wanted. So, what happens now? Now we figure out what this is between us. Without the drama, without the guilt, without worrying about anyone else's opinion. Just us. We made plans to meet for lunch, and I spent the morning dealing with the fallout. My phone kept ringing. Sarah, our mutual friends. Even Derek called once, though I didn't answer that one. The most difficult call came from Sarah's sister, Jessica, who I'd always gotten along with well. Marcus, I don't know what happened last night, but Sarah is devastated, Jessica said. She's at my place, and she's been crying since she got here. She says you publicly humiliated her. Jessica, I didn't mean for it to happen in public. Sarah and Derek showed up at the restaurant where Emma and I were having dinner. But why were you having dinner with Emma? Sarah says you two have been having an affair. We haven't been having an affair. Last night was our first time alone together. But Jessica, I need you to understand something. Sarah spent yesterday on a full-day date with her ex-boyfriend. She lied to me about where she was going and what she was doing. She was ready to throw away our entire relationship to see if there was still something there with Derek. Jessica was quiet for a long moment. She told me it was just coffee. It was 10 hours, Jessica. Coffee, lunch, a movie, walking around downtown, a gallery opening. That's not closure. That's a relationship. Oh my God. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was that extensive. And Emma didn't steal me from Sarah. Emma was there for me when Sarah was pulling away. Emma listened when Sarah stopped listening. Emma cared when Sarah stopped caring. After Jessica hung up, promising to talk to Sarah about getting the full story, I felt lighter. Having someone from Sarah's own family understand what had really happened made me feel less like the villain in this story. Lunch with Emma was exactly what I needed. We went to a small cafe near her apartment, somewhere neutral where we could talk without the weight of last night's drama. I've been thinking, Emma said over her salad, about what you said last night, about choosing me, and I need to make sure you understand what you're choosing. What do you mean? I mean that I'm not going to be your rebound relationship, Marcus. I'm not going to be the person you're with while you get over Sarah. If we're doing this, we're doing it because you genuinely want to be with me, not because you're angry at her. I reached across the table and took her hand. Emma, I've been thinking too, about all those moments over the past 2 years when you made me feel seen and heard and appreciated, about how easy it is to talk to you, how comfortable I feel around you, how you notice the details that matter to me. And I realized that I've been in love with the idea of Sarah for months, but I've been in love with the reality of you. I just wasn't brave enough to admit it to myself. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me. It's also the truth. Emma, you're not my rebound. You're my choice. The choice I should have made 2 years ago if I hadn't been so focused on what I thought I was supposed to want. We spent the afternoon walking around Austin, holding hands and talking about everything and nothing. It felt natural, easy, right in a way that my relationship with Sarah hadn't felt in months. There was no pressure to perform, no need to prove anything, no walking on eggshells to avoid conflict. Around 4 o'clock, Emma's phone started buzzing with calls from Sarah. You should probably answer that, I said. Do you want me to? I think you need to, for closure, if nothing else. Emma answered on the 4th ring. Hi, Sarah. I could hear Sarah's voice from where I was sitting, high and emotional. Emma listened for several minutes, occasionally saying, I understand, or I'm sorry you feel that way. Finally, Emma spoke more firmly. Sarah, stop. Just stop for a minute and listen to me. You spent yesterday with Derek. You lied to Marcus about where you were going and what you were doing. You were ready to end a 2-year relationship to explore things with your ex. Marcus deserves better than that, and you know it. More talking from Sarah's end, getting louder and more agitated. No, Sarah, I'm not going to apologize for caring about someone who's been taken for granted, and I'm not going to apologize for being with someone who appreciates me. The call ended with Sarah hanging up on Emma. Emma stared at her phone for a moment, then looked at me with a mix of sadness calmness and determination. How do you feel? I asked. Sad, guilty, but also free. I've been hiding how I felt for 2 years, Marcus. I've been pretending to be happy about your relationship while watching someone I care about get hurt over and over again. I'm done pretending. That evening, we went back to my apartment and ordered pizza. We watched a movie, talked about our plans for the week, made normal, everyday conversation like a normal, everyday couple. It was the most peaceful Saturday night I'd had in months. Around 10 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Derek. I think you should answer this one, Emma said. Marcus, hey, it's Derek. Look, I owe you an apology. You do. Sarah told me you two were having problems, but she made it sound like you were broken up. I had no idea you were still together when she asked to meet yesterday. I would never have agreed to it if I'd known. I looked at Emma, who was listening with raised eyebrows. What exactly did Sarah tell you? She said you two had grown apart, that she was planning to end things but wanted closure with me first. She said you were already seeing other people and that it was basically over between you. Derek, we never broke up. We had one fight Friday night, and by Saturday morning she was having a full-day date with you. Jesus Christ. Marcus, I'm really sorry. She seemed so certain that things were over with you. She was talking about us like we had a real chance to work things out. What are you going to do now? I'm going to tell her that I can't see her anymore. This is too messy, and I don't want to be in the middle of someone else's relationship drama. She needs to figure out what she wants, but she can't use me to avoid dealing with her real problems. After Derek hung up, Emma and I sat in comfortable silence for a while. So, she lied to him too, Emma said finally. Apparently she's been lying to everyone, including herself. Do you think she really believed you two were over? I thought about it carefully. I think Sarah wanted us to be over, but she didn't want to be the one to end it. She wanted me to get fed up and break up with her so she could be the victim, instead of the person who threw away a good relationship. Well, you did get fed up. Yeah, but I also found something better. Emma curled up against me on the couch, her head on my shoulder. Marcus? Yeah, I know this is all complicated and messy, but I want you to know that I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy. For the first time in 2 years, I get to be with the person I want to be with. Me too, Emma. Me too. As we sat there together, my phone buzzed with one final text from Sarah. I know you hate me right now, but I hope someday you'll understand that I was just confused. I never meant to hurt you. I hope you and Emma are happy together. I showed the message to Emma. That's progress, she said. Yeah, it is. I deleted the message without responding. Some chapters of your life deserve a proper ending, but this one had already been closed the moment I chose to move forward, instead of looking back. 3 months later, I'm sitting in the same coffee shop where I first met Sarah, but this time, I'm waiting for Emma. It's become our Sunday morning tradition. Coffee here, then a walk through Zilker Park, followed by lunch at whatever new place we want to try. Simple, easy, real. Emma walks in wearing a sundress I've never seen before, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. And when she sees me, her face lights up with that same genuine smile that made me fall for her in the first place. She slides into the seat across from me and immediately reaches for my hand. How was your week? She asks, and I know she actually wants to hear the answer. Good, really good. The Johnson project finally got approved, and my boss hinted that a promotion might be coming. Marcus, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. And she means it. I can see it in her eyes, hear it in her voice. With Sarah, good news was often met with distraction or immediate conversation about her own problems. With Emma, my successes feel shared, celebrated, important. How about you? How was your week at the hospital? Emma works as a nurse in the pediatric ICU, and her stories never fail to remind me how much she cares about people, how much empathy she brings to everything she does. Hard, but good. We had a little girl come in on Tuesday, car accident, and her parents were terrified, but she's going to be fine, and seeing her smile again on Friday made everything worth it. This is what I love about Emma. She finds meaning in her work, purpose in helping others, joy in small victories. She's not constantly complaining about her job, or her life, or the people around her. She's present, grateful, engaged with the world in a way that makes me want to be better too. I have something to tell you, she says, looking slightly nervous. What's up? Sarah texted me yesterday. I tense slightly. Over the past 3 months, Sarah has reached out sporadically, sometimes apologetic, sometimes angry, sometimes just sad. Emma has handled it all with grace, but I know it's been hard for her to lose her best friend, even if it was for the right reasons. What did she say? She's moving to Denver. She got a job offer at a design firm there, and she thinks a fresh start would be good for her. How do you feel about that? Emma considers the question carefully. Relieved, I think, and sad. I miss the friend she used to be, but I don't miss the drama. I don't miss feeling like I had to choose between being loyal to her and being honest about what I was seeing. And Derek? That ended weeks ago. Apparently, once Derek realized how Sarah had manipulated the situation, he lost interest pretty quickly. Turns out he didn't want to be with someone who would lie to multiple people to get what she wanted. I nod, feeling a mixture of sadness for Sarah and relief that this chapter is truly closing. Are you going to miss her? I'm going to miss who she was before she became so focused on what she thought she deserved instead of appreciating what she had. But Marcus, I'm not going to miss the person she became these past few months. Over the past 3 months, Emma and I have built something beautiful together. We've taken weekend trips to San Antonio and Houston. We've hosted dinner parties for our friends, the ones who stuck around after the initial drama died down. We've had lazy Sunday mornings and challenging conversations conversations and moments of pure happiness that feel effortless and natural. But more than that, we've built trust. Emma tells me when something is bothering her instead of pulling away. I share my worries and fears instead of trying to handle everything alone. We've learned to be a team in a way I never was with Sarah. I want to ask you something, I say, pulling a small velvet box from my jacket pocket. Emma's eyes widen, her hand flying to her mouth. Marcus, Emma Rodriguez, you've been patient with me for 2 years while I figured out what I actually wanted. You've been honest with me, even when it was hard. You've shown me what it means to be with someone who chooses me every single day, not just when it's convenient or easy. I open the box, revealing the ring I've been carrying around for 2 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. Will you marry me? Emma is crying now, but she's also laughing, and she's nodding before she can even speak. Yes, yes, of course, yes. I slip the ring onto her finger, and it fits perfectly, just like everything else about us. The other coffee shop patrons start clapping, and Emma throws her arms around me, and I think about how different this moment is from any moment I ever shared with Sarah. This feels real. This feels right. This feels like the beginning of something lasting instead of the desperate attempt to hold on to something that was already over. I love you, Emma whispers against my ear. I love you too. I should have told you that 2 years ago. You told me when you were ready to mean it. That's all that matters. As we sit there, engaged and happy and planning our future together, I think about the text Sarah sent me that started this whole chain of events. My ex texted, I might give him another chance. In a way, I'm grateful for that text. If Sarah hadn't been honest about her doubts, if she hadn't chosen to explore her feelings for Derek, I might never have had the courage to choose Emma. I might have spent years trying to fix a relationship that was fundamentally broken instead of embracing one that was fundamentally right. Sarah taught me what I didn't want in a relationship: uncertainty, competition for attention, feeling like I had to prove my worth every day. Emma has shown me what I do want: partnership, presence, unconditional support, and love that doesn't require constant validation. 6 months ago, I thought my life was falling apart when Sarah chose Derek over me. Now I realize it was actually falling into place. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. Emma and I spent the rest of that Sunday planning our engagement party, talking about wedding venues, and dreaming about the life we want to build together. A life based on honesty instead of convenience, presence instead of distraction, choice instead of obligation. As I watch Emma show off her ring to the barista who remembers us from our weekly visits, I'm struck by how simple happiness can be when you're with the right person. No drama, no games, no wondering where you stand or whether you're loved, just peace, partnership, and the quiet confidence that comes from being chosen by someone who knows exactly who you are and loves you because of it, not in spite of it. That night, as Emma falls asleep in my arms in the apartment that now truly feels like home, I think about how grateful I am that Sarah followed her heart that day, because in losing her, I found Emma, and in finding Emma, I found myself. Sometimes the end of one story is really just the beginning of a better one. Looking back now, I have no regrets about how things unfolded. That day when Sarah told me she was considering giving Derek another chance, and I said, "Follow your heart," I meant it. I wanted her to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. And when I called Emma, I wasn't trying to get revenge or hurt Sarah. I was finally being honest about what I wanted. The best revenge isn't trying to hurt someone who hurt you. The best revenge is building something beautiful with someone who appreciates what the first person took for granted. What do you think about this story? Have you ever been in a situation where someone took your love for granted while someone else was waiting to give you the appreciation you deserved? Share your experience in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please show your support by leaving a like and letting me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for listening to my story, and thank you all for being here.